when I go in and open up, say, someone's business Akashic Records. So we're getting to the essence of the business's soul and what it wants to kind of bring up and out that way in conjunction with you as its co-creator. So when you start to look at it through that lens of like, I'm here to create and I'm here to co-create with my business. And if that's the vessel that I'm going to be creating in this world with, you start to come from a very different place. So you're coming out of the mind frequency and you're coming into the heart frequency.
Welcome to the Enlightened Podcast, the enlightened journey of life. Because we're not just here to chase enlightenment, we are here to live life, to embody all aspects of ourselves, to bring the sacred into every day. I'm your host, Jen Hamilton, self-mastery mentor, tantra guide, and sacred rebel at heart. This podcast is a devotion to the art of knowing thyself. Through solo snippets, raw musings, and deep conversations with epic guests, we explore the sacred, the sensual, and the spiritual, diving deep into self-exploration and always leaving you with something to take away. This isn't just a podcast, it's a portal to awaken, to liberate, to remember who you truly are. It is an honor to have you here. Let's get enlightened. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlightenment Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today my very special guest is Tara Hegerty. Tara is a kinesiologist, Akashic Record Teacher, and trauma-informed energy therapist who supports clients worldwide, including in the US, Canada, UK, and beyond. She has helped hundreds of people shift their energetic frequency and bring more alignment, ease, and flow into their lives. Tara works with high achievers, deep feelers, and ambitious souls who've tried everything but still feel stuck. Her work clears resistance, rewires patterns, and unlocks forward momentum through clarity, self-trust, and soul alignment. Tara is an absolute earth angel. She was such a pleasure to have on the show. I know you're going to love this episode. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Enlightenment Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today I'm joined by the most stunning Tara Hegerty. Welcome.
Thank you so very much. I'm so excited to be here.
I know,
we've been warm and welcome.
Oh, we've been talking about this for so long. And you and I met years ago because we met at a Christmas party, actually.
I was actually going back and thinking about that. I was like, where did we meet? And it was at the Christmas party.
Yeah, and we kind of just clicked. We were just like, hey, you're cool. You're cool.
I do. Yeah. And you're right. It was so long ago, but I feel like this is like a complete full circle of kind of coming around now and like checking in and talking with you.
I know.
So amazing. It feels like time has not passed since that Christmas party.
Yes. And like we are both in such wildly different areas of our life now because you've lived in Brisbane back then and you've relocated up north a little bit.
Yeah.
You had written a book when I first connected with you, Dawn Warrior. I did. I went to your book launch. Are you still in the writing space?
I do write, and it's funny you say that, but I haven't been publishing, you know, so that was a beautiful, like, I guess coming out part of me that needed to be expressed, you know, that was a very tender young girl that needed lots of love and support, and being able to bring that up and out. Like I channeled that book, I think in 3 months, and then the information that started to kind of come around that. And like I still to this day like think, gosh, that's such a beautiful creative portal that I was able to kind of birth through, and I really felt that was like trajectory of like where things have kind of started for the business as well. So it's Dawn Warrior, and I still like I was up this morning too, like, you know, I'm still a Dawn Warrior. Like I still get up in the mornings and just find my time, and the writing itself is very different. So it's funny, like I'll look at say a passage of a poem or something, and as I'm reading it 2 or 3 words will pop up and I'll sit with that, and then the writing will come out naturally, and that'll be my information that I need to take through for the day.
Yes.
So I do write, yes, but more for me.
Self.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've published a co-authored book. There's another book sitting inside me, but I feel like, and we could probably speak into this because we'll talk about business stuff, but I feel like there's the stuff to get through to get there. And I feel as though also there's a lot of perfectionism that sits inside of me. One, because I'm Virgo, and two, just because it's how my makeup. And it was funny, I was listening to one of your podcasts because you got your own podcast as well. I was listening to your inner child one this morning on my drive home from the school drop off. And I was like, wow, there's so much that you mentioned in there about supporting the inner child and especially in business as well. Yeah. So because you've moved more into the business space, you've become a kinesiologist. Tell us about this magic that you bring to the world.
Yeah. And just about that, like going back to the book, and I love the fact that you're like, I know there's another part of me. Yeah. If you like co-authored it, I wonder if it's like something that needs to be birthed just solely from you.
It does. You know? It is sitting there. And I think because I was in a really beautiful container with my publisher and other authors, it taught me so much about the process. It like coached me through it. It held my hand, which is what I really needed. I think everyone, you know, that feels inspired to write a book, do a co-authored book, like where there's multiple authors that come together and you get, you know, coaching, support, you've got, you know, your publisher to ask all the questions because you go in blind.
You do. And you probably got then the support, right, of the marketing from everyone else that's part of that group as well. It is a process, and that's a hard thing to navigate, especially on your own, alone. But co-authoring is just where it's at now. Well, I think it's a great starting point, that's for sure, because you do learn so much about the process of writing, and then you have this deeper appreciation for the books that are birthed and how they are formatted and put together.
Someone actually said to me, it was my coach at the time, said it's harder to write one chapter than it is to write a whole book, because I found, like, I shared my story about my first medicine ceremony and like just really wildly opening up this experience that I had with my mom and like I had with the feminine line, and then like coming into what, you know, empowered sexuality meant to me. And that was like, it was sort of one instance where instead of going really wide, we went really narrow, really deep. And so it was really diving into basically just speaking into a tiny little strand of my life that's had so much impact, where I feel as though sometimes a book can give you so much more width in
absolutely.
that. So
absolutely.
Narrowing it down to one chapter and having a word count, I found a little bit challenging, because I'm like, and now I'm just like, it's almost like there is so much inside of me for this one book that I've got in mind that I keep saying to myself, when this happens or when I get the space, and I know that it's a lie that I will continue to tell myself until I sit down and go, I'm just going to work on a chapter a week or something.
You know? And I think that's one thing that I worked through was like, okay, at least I can commit myself, like consistency, and I'll just write one word or one sentence a day and just have that commitment. And generally one word or one sentence may come out, but then like a whole paragraph or two paragraphs or a whole chapter might flow out. So but just having that consistency where the body feels safe and it's able to kind of like share. It's interesting to see how it unravels in its own way.
I feel like my fear is that I won't be able to give it the time and love once it starts flowing. I'll be like, oh, I'm on the clock, I've got to do this. And then I was like, I'll go away for a few weeks and like be in a cabin in the woods for a bit with no distractions or phone reception. I'll just write. That's also a lie I tell myself.
And then you put the pressure on yourself, and then there's all these expectations that come up, and then you're like, oh no, there's like way too many expectations. And that's the mother of all disappointment right there.
Classic writer's block, telling yourself the time that you have to do it by.
Exactly right. Yeah, it definitely is a process, and it opens you up. Like, you know, that you know, Dawn Warrior actually, that book that came through, I felt like that was the opening, and it led me to so much more. Like it led me to wanting to learn more about holistic counseling, and so I studied holistic counseling. And then after I finished the holistic counseling, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? I felt like I was actually going to mentor mothers and sit in that space. And then Spirit spoke to me and said, no, you need to do some more energy work. I'm like, okay, well, what's this energy work that I've got to do? And it didn't feel like it was a traditional Reiki or any of that. And I was like, a friend mentioned kinesiology, and I was like, what is this? What's kinesiology? And that curiosity and those little breadcrumbs led me then to like study a whole diploma for 3 years on kinesiology. And so it's really about allowing the body to share its innate wisdom with you in a very kind of safe, I guess, practical kind of way as well. And so I felt then, the kinesiology aspect started to kind of like have that more body somatics, body wisdom that started to come through as well. And so then layering the holistic counseling with the kinesiology, and beyond that, I was always doing my Akashic Records work as well. Like that kind of then laid on top of that. So the way I kind of look at the work that I'm doing in the world is there's this deep layer of personal development from my own journey, and then there's the holistic counseling, and then there's the kinesiology, and then there's the Akashic Records. And I really feel it's like working with, the mind of personal development, and then going up that next layer of with holistic counseling, and then the body wisdom from kinesiology, and then the soul level kind of information from the Akashic Records. And so it feels like the work has got its own kind of multi-level dimensional kind of sustenance behind it as well. So it's interesting when people do come, I'm like, where are we going today? What are we doing? You can market to everyone, but I really feel there's that soul resonance, and they come in and it's always like working within those parameters of that toolkit that I've created. And
I resonate so much with it, because I've got like the hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, NLP, and then there's then there's tantra as well that I've added into that, which has been flowing beautifully, because there was so much mind stuff and there was so much stuff, the subconscious, all of this, and then it's like, hang on, what about the body?
Right.
What are we unlocking, within our body? And, that's been the bridge. And then there's so much, spirituality wrapped into that, esoteric. And so, and I love that, because I'm multidimensional. You're multidimensional. Our offerings have to be multidimensional. I don't know about you, but I get really sort of like, I guess, frustrated when we're, told in inverted commas, like, this is how you do business. This is how you market. Niche down, niche down, niche down. I'm like, but there's just so much.
That's right. And again, it feels like that constricted space, right? And instead of like putting ourselves in a box, it's like, well, how can we express each part of that multidimensional experience that we're providing for people to understand in a really clear, simple way too, without using all the marketing kind of, language that you have to feel like you have to wrap around it.
Yes. Or stay on trend. Like I always call it like being a slut to the algorithm.
That's so true. Right?
Because I remember like I looked into like just some Instagram, building things, which didn't really work for me. I did it sort of for a little bit, but it was like, jump onto the trending audio, post this certain time a day, like that. And I'm like, but that doesn't work for me. It might work for someone that's not as multidimensional, that doesn't have children, that doesn't have like a ridiculous school drop every morning, that doesn't have all of the layers. And so I think it's really about finding what lights you up and what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when it comes to a business side of things, working with the Akashic Records. And so when I go in and open up, say, someone's business Akashic Records, so we're getting to the essence of the business's soul and what it wants to kind of bring up and out that way in conjunction with you as its co-creator. So when you start to look at it through that lens of like, I'm here to create and I'm here to co-create with my business, and if that's the vessel that I'm going to be creating in this world with, you start to come from a very different place. So you're coming out of the mind frequency and you're coming into the heart frequency, and that strategy and that niching and all that, that's the mind frequency that we're all kind of used to and we can see. But at some level, it's like, does that still hit home? Like, does that still hit in the heart? And so by looking at our business as like this beautiful portal to start to birth and create through, then that gives us an opportunity to have a different lens and a different awareness of how that business wants to kind of come through and be shared. And so it's less about the money, it's less about the impact, and it's more about your heart being received by everyone else. And
I feel like my business that I birthed is an octopus. Like all these different tentacles. I'm thinking about it because I've sat with like the energetics of business. I walk a lot of people through like when they're sort of like that starting out level where they're just like, what do I want to do? And I'm like, okay, well, these are the basic steps you need to get in touch with yourself. Like, what is it that you want to bring forward? You know, what is the deep core messaging? Who is it for? What do they get out of it, kind of thing? But there's a lot of energetics that have to go behind that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a lot of the blocks too, right? So we're looking, and you're right, there's place for strategy, don't get me wrong, like in terms of what the purpose is, what you're actually wanting to produce, and what is your skill set behind that. But when you start to look at it from a different lens and see that your business is like part of you, and you're here to express that, then you've got to look at the energetics and the blocks beyond that as well. So what is sitting back there that's stopping me to feel visible? What's stopping me to achieve success? And they're the energy blocks that you're holding that's stopping, the business to move forward, as well as its kind of co-creator.
I always say I'm guardianing my business. Like I've birthed it. And it's here for it is a co-creation. Like it really is. And I've sat with the energetics of it. What do you need from me? What do you want to look like? What colors do you want to be expressed by? Because I can help that. And then I say, well, what is it that you can help me with? Like it's an exchange.
A symbiotic kind of relationship.
Which I find works. I also find though, when we talk about, I guess, masculine and feminine energy in business, is that sort of a place that you dance in as well?
Yeah, look, and I think that there's, when I look at masculine and feminine energies in a business, and the way that I kind of see business energy is like the chakra system. So I'll see, and we're talking about the blocks, right? So you've got like, the root chakra kind of system and what's happening there. And that's all about the stability and the financial and belonging and everything in your place. And it kind of moves up from there. But and I also see then the container that the business is actually in. So the masculine container, and then the feminine flow within that as well. So and it's looking at how to keep that not in balance, but recognizing when things are more leaning towards the masculine and doing, and then taking your feminine aspect and bringing more of the feminine flow to it. Because I feel that traditionally, like, we're accustomed to working in our business, and we go to school, we learn, and then we've got this understanding that, we have to sit and we got to do, and we've got to hustle and all that kind of stuff that we all know about, right? But then that's that masculine part. So how do we kind of infuse the feminine part? And it's all about what we were talking about before, connecting with business, asking what he wants to talk through, bringing in beautiful rituals, bringing in like scheduling breaks in during your day to just be in your feminine. Like, when we sit at our computer all the time and our whole body is like, in like freeze mode, like our body doesn't have a chance to relax and like breathe, and that's what we are. We're living, breathing humans. And so when we can take opportunities to like go outside and like, sit and have a nice lunch in silence and just allow yourself just to be absorbed by nature, or turn the music up and do some beautiful dancing.
Shift the energy.
Shifts it up. And so when we're able to start to bring the feminine in with the masculine, then that's where we start to find that harmony. But we need to recognize when catch ourselves when we're in the masculine more, or when we're too much in the feminine, not doing enough. And I've been in both. There's been multiple times where I'm like, I'm just happy to sit here and meditate and sit in my business and not do a thing.
I see so many, especially women in business. They're amazing. They've got incredible capabilities to support other people, generally in the healing space, perhaps the coaching space, very feminine led. They can do the incredible intuitive work, but they're lacking in the systems and the structure essentially of their business. And I find it's such a dance. And business is such a constant evolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't read the fine print when I started studying and I wanted to do this stuff, that I'd have to work so much on a business as opposed to in the business at times as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there was so much behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out, right? It's like you feel like you have to do it all until you get the finance or the financial kind of backing to then get the additional support. But when you start to look at it like, well, I'm not going to be the master of that, and even if it did take me 500 hours, I could spend $500 to get someone in just to set up the marketing and show me and teach me. And that's one thing that I've always done, is like, if I've ever engaged with external support, I've always asked them to show me how they actually do it. So then I'm actually learning along the way. So if anything needs to be fixed in the back end, like for instance, like your marketing funnels and everything like that, then I've learnt at least a little bit, and I'm not completely reliant on them. And so, you're right. There's this beautiful dance that needs to kind of take place in the business. And you can start to feel when it starts to tip as well, like you notice your body just wanting to feel like it needs to rest more, or if it's feeling like it's pushing and forcing and everything feels hard, or you're waking up and going, oh my goodness, like I've got to do this again today. Like,
it's like we're back here.
And that's a massive thing for me. I noticed, like, you know, over the, like when you start out, is that you do spend so much time and effort because there's so much desire for it to work, right? And now, you know, 5 years into the business now, I'm really understanding that I've got to put myself first. Like I am the vessel. And so I organize like quarterly retreats for myself. Beautiful. So I book in like 1 or 2 days, and I go off in a little cabin in the woods, and I do have the intention to work on the business, to sit in that. But if it doesn't happen, I don't force it. And maybe my body just wants to rest and completely just veg out, and then do some like beautiful hikes in nature or something. And that's the replenishing that I needed. So,
absolutely. It's really interesting because you were saying about like outsourcing and them teaching you. I'm the opposite. Let me do it all first, then I'll teach you. That's my control side of things. It's like, but it's my way. Because then I also know that if I hand something over to someone, if for whatever reason, like I set the system up, I put it into place. So maybe I got to just let that go a little bit too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's a little layer under there of like, not control, but like wanting to.
Let's not beat around the bush. It's control.
And maybe it's like that opportunity. And I feel like, you know, this is the thing with businesses, right? Like it gives us the opportunity to self-reflect, to acknowledge like what's coming through and be like, all right, I can reflect on that, and then I can start to, you know, move through and understand myself as a human, as a business owner, as a way to operate my business from a different lens. And it's just, you're right, your business, like it's evolving, and you're evolving too. And so you've got to work with its energies and your energies as well.
Absolutely. Sure. I'd love to dive into more of the Akashic Records for business, because this is a new concept to me. I've heard so much about Akashic Records for self and personal experience. So does the business entity itself have its own Akashic record?
And so the interesting thing with Akashic Records, so to just explain what Akashic Records is, like we have 7 major chakras and we have 6 higher chakras, and our 11th chakra is the Akashic Records, and Akashic Records of a soul, and that's past, present, information of that soul. So it's past, present, and future. So as you could imagine, that soul has all this information that you could start to tap into. And because everything is consciousness, everything has a soul. So your pet has consciousness and a soul.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
You know, and then getting into your business has soul and consciousness. Your land that you work on has business or house, and your house has business and soul and consciousness. And so once you can understand that everything is, you know, energy and consciousness, then you can start to look at like your business energy at a soul perspective. And so when you open up your business Akashic Records, you're going to the soul of that business, and you're understanding more about how it wants to be perceived and portrayed and received in the world. And so through that, because you're the owner, that'll be more specific to that business. So we're talking about some of the energetic blocks that you might be having as a business owner. And so if there's blocks around being visible and being seen on social media or video or things like that, that can start to come up and show in the business energetics. So there'll be parts of like the solar plexus chakra that's out of alignment, which is about communication and visibility and all that. So then you start to work through and open up the business energy, but you use you as the portal to start to work through that. And so once you start to release that, the business will start to mirror that back and reflect that back. And so it's an interesting process that I've been working with in with a lot of business owners is that, you know, you can have the strategy, you can have all the information, you can have all the degrees and certifications, but if you're not compatible with the energy of the business and you're not working with some of the blocks that you're presenting with, then that can start to hinder your success and some of the goals that you put into place as well. And sometimes the business, it's interesting, like, you know, the business like will absorb energies and it'll release them. So if you're putting into your business the thoughts of, I'm never successful, I'm never going to hit that that target or that goal, then the business will absorb that too.
Of course.
And it'll hold that. And so that's consciousness that you're feeding into constantly. And so once you start to clear it on you, it starts to then clear on the business as well. And so because it's in co-creation with you. So, and because you're working at a soul level, it might not be conscious. So same things with working with limiting beliefs, you know, in you know, NLP and your work that you do. It's very similar in terms of like, well, what's sitting on the subconscious behind this? And this is affecting the business energy as well. And it's interesting, like when I view the business energy, there'll be chakras, but then there'll be like what looks like energy leaks or something like shadowy on the left-hand side, which is your feminine side. And I'm like, okay, so we need to look at that feminine flow that we're talking about. Tell me a bit more about what you do for you and self-care for you in the business. And then things will start to kind of unravel and find out more information, you know, what's some of the beliefs that your mum may have had, you know, with work, what ancestral karmic links could we be looking at as well. So working with the business records just as an opportunity to start to look at the way that you're operating in your business and starting to work through some of that. Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
It really does. Okay. All of it makes sense to me. I love that. That's you're in the right place. So what is it like when someone, for example, sells their business? Do they hand the soul of that over, or does the new person add their own soul in? Is this why we see some businesses like more successful or fail when they're handed over?
Yeah, great question. And it's interesting. I had a business recently where there were two partners and they co-owned the business, and they're wanting to dissolve the business but wanting to pass it on and you know, see how it could kind of thrive in a different management style, because the two sisters weren't quite meeting eye to eye in the business anymore, you know, and their values weren't aligning. So it was a very interesting process, and it was like working through some of the issues at an individual level and then at a partnership level. So even though it was family, they're family related, there were a lot of issues between the two of them at a business level that needed to be cleared. And once we cleared those, then I was just prompted to start to clear the energy of the business. So it wasn't holding on to any of the low-lying frequencies that they were putting into the business. And so it was almost like lifting it up to a different place so it could find the frequency of its new owner to kind of come in. Beautiful. And it was a beautiful gift, you know, to not only move through you personally as a business owner going, okay, I want to pass and sell this business off, and I want to give it the best opportunity because it did come through me, was birthed through me, and I want it to keep moving, but I don't want to have that energetic kind of cord or connection to it anymore. And once you do that, and then you allow then the business to be cleared completely as well, it can then find its own. It's interesting because I find businesses and their energies, they don't want to dissolve. They want to keep moving. There's this like innate desire in these consciousnesses of businesses that they don't actually want to completely close. And I find that very intriguing. So there's this innate desire for them to actually want to continue their work in the world.
Do you find that the language that people use, so say for example, someone refers to their business as their baby.
Yes.
Do you find that then has like an energetic sort of hook that if it does come time to sell or dissolve, it's almost like they have to adopt their child out? This episode of the Enlighten podcast is proudly sponsored by the Sanctuary of Self, your portal to self-discovery and creating a sanctuary within. At the Sanctuary of Self, our philosophy is rooted in the belief that true transformation
begins with knowing yourself deeply. Here you'll find my signature programs. It's the home of all of my Tantra offerings, including in-person sessions in Brisbane, workshops and trainings all around Australia. I invite you to start with the Flourish Collective membership, a nurturing sanctuary for personal growth and transformation. This membership offers a greenhouse of resources, including workbooks, meditations, and soulful self-paced practices designed to help you cultivate alignment, purpose, and self-love. At only $44 per month with no lock-in contract, you can access an abundance of resources, videos, ebooks, meditations, and workshops with new content added monthly. Head to sanctuaryofself.love for all the juicy details.
Yeah. Because I've noticed that with certain people I've worked, it's like I can't, like I want to step away from my business or I want to retire, but I can't because it's my baby.
Yeah.
And I've got it, tell us about that energetically.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing that you've mentioned there, because words hold frequency.
They do,
right?
yeah.
And when you're putting a connotation like that onto your business, is that, yes, it's an attachment that you're creating based on some sort of lack that you may not have been experiencing too. And so when you're right, and when we choose those words of my business is my baby, it also makes me look at maybe the dynamics of the business and the business owner and going, well, did it ever feel like it was a co-creation then? Did it always feel like there was, and I hate to say it, some sort of hierarchy?
Yeah, like a parent.
I was a parent to your business, and that I have to protect and love you and support you and everything. I would actually kind of be looking then at the dynamic of like going back into some of their childhood and their parent or their parenting style with some of their children, how those patterns were kind of coming through, because there would be some sort of link between those words that are spoken, because it's such an interesting saying, and it's very like people kind of just throw that around these days, but maybe it's subconscious coming through and showing them in a different way as well, that there needs to be some sort of thing addressed between. It doesn't feel equal then. It feels like there's this hierarchy of I'm here, you're here.
Yes, there's that separation there. Or that like, I've raised you. I can't let you go out into the world yet because I'm your primary caregiver.
And I'm not ready to let go.
I'm not ready to let go. I've seen that with people as well, and I've coached some like sort of like big business owners through this. To just notice their wording, notice their language, because language is everything. Like you said, like words hold power. Everything is frequency.
And even going back into attachment styles, is that's that anxious attachment, right? So I'd be looking again at anxious attachment and that fear of abandonment, of walking away from something because it's been part of me. And it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Like, looking at some of the words that people use in their business and how they relate to it as well. Like I'm the master, you're the servant. You're the servant. Or, and
go and make me money, bring me the people.
And I feel that it creates that like hierarchy, between you and your business. And it does give it an opportunity to kind of stand on its own 2 feet, essentially, and start to work with it. And that's where that symbiotic kind of co-creation relationship needs to be, start to acknowledged and appreciated as well.
If someone's listening and they're thinking to myself, I love my business, I love my offerings, but there's no return on it, or am I not doing enough? Like they're collecting certifications going, I need to do more. Where should they start with this? Like, where is the best place for someone to go, okay, I need to look at the energetics of this, I need to listen to my business?
And I think there's there's a kind of 2 questions that came through from that, is like, there seems to be some sort of abundance or wealth issue there, is that, I can't receive. And so I'd be looking at the energetics of like how you work with money and how you receive abundance, and what your version of wealth looks like as well, because, we go into business thinking that this is our primary income stream that we need to rely on, and we put so much pressure on it. And I feel like that's one thing that us women in business tend to kind of have a bit of an oversight, is that we rely on just this one income stream instead of actually multiple income streams as well. And what is actually money and abundance and wealth for me? And it's like, well, wealth is so much more than just money.
Just money in the bank.
Exactly
that.
You know, it's the nurturing relationships that you get to create within your business. It's the partnerships that you start to create. It's the collaborations that you get to nurture and connect with. And it's the then yes, it's the income that needs to come through. So there's some sort of underlying kind of relationship, you know, aspect with abundance, receiving, with some money stories that might be kind of coming through there. And it's interesting, like even like looking at energy from a different perspective of it's out there and I'm not getting it. Instead of it's in here. What haven't I cracked open and allowed in to myself as well? And I can't remember the second one that we were talking about was, that I'm not enough. Is that what we were saying before?
Oh, it's collecting certificates.
Oh, certificates.
I see a lot of people going, well, should I do this and should I do that? And it's like, well, why don't you just focus on, like, I you know, love expanding. I just love learning. And so I've collected certificates over time that have aligned with, I guess, my growth and evolution.
Yeah.
So like in the very early days, it was like, I need more. Like, and it was a place of not feeling certain within myself that what I had to offer was plenty.
Yeah.
And then I also got a love of growth, love of learning, love of expansion. And I also know, because I'm a manifesting generator in human design, so it's very easy for me to go, love it, done, next.
Absolutely. And I think that we're also sold, you know, that we need to continue doing it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. Like, you know, there's for a while there, it was like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next certificate? What's the next course? What's the next program? And what I was finding out, even though I was absorbing all this information, I wasn't integrating it into my system.
Yes.
And so when you start to take all this information that you're receiving and you start to work with that in a different way, maybe it's just sharing and talking about it. Maybe it's like creating some sort of, I don't know, program, or just even starting to work with clients just based on that. And then you can start to like, and the underlying issue generally does come down to that worthiness, right? Why do I feel like I'm not worthy enough to do the work that, you know, I know that is so beautifully aligned with me and it feels so natural to me, yet I just feel like I need to get the next certificate, or that I've got this imposter syndrome that's starting to like bubble up inside me. And that's that inner work that we need to continue doing in business, is starting to look at those deeper layers, as we both know in that space. Like, it's such a beautiful opportunity to look at it from a place of reverence and love and being like, wow, this is alive in me. I really need to look at it and start to work with it. And it's different for everyone, right? But underlying that is this not enoughness, or this, you know, worthiness. Where does that come from? Where can we kind of link that back to start to really understand that business is just reflecting something that needs to come up and within out ourselves. Of you, within ourselves.
Absolutely. And I feel as though there's so much space for comparison these days. Like, it is so noisy. If you go online and you don't have the intention of, you know, sharing, if you're there to absorb information, or if you're there just sort of going, I just want to have a scroll hole on social media. But then it's like, this person's doing this.
Scroll hole.
Yeah. You get stuck in the,
I feel like it's the dark mirror.
It is. Like you go and you're like, where the fuck did that 20 minutes go? And all of a sudden you're like, well, I need to book a holiday and I need to do this. I need to do this program. And oh my gosh, that's what we're wearing now. Okay, no more ankle socks. Like, there's just so much information and it's moving so quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's even no statistic that comes out that's saying that, like, people want, you know, shorter things on Instagram and TikTok these days because no one wants to sit and like appreciate longer content. Long copy content on Facebook's not working for people. So keep it short, because everyone's just going fast. But
is this a story that the collective is creating and we're feeding into it?
Exactly that. Yes.
And so I guess we've got to question that, because does my soul aligned client actually feed into that?
Yeah.
fit into the way that we think the collective is receiving information.
Yes.
Perhaps we can create a different story that
Absolutely.
is actually got more depth and emotion and understanding that we can start to work through. But you're right, like in terms of like comparing yourself all the time, and when we do get sucked into the doom hole, like it just does. And what I find for me is that it lowers my frequency. It drops my frequency into a different space where it takes even like longer and harder to get myself up and out of that too. And so there's a lot of boundaries that I've had to put in place for myself around it. Was that, you know, first and foremost, like in my mornings, like no phone. I'm not getting drawn into that. I'm going to sit into my own kind of, and the interesting thing with the Akashic Records that I've learned is that generally we go and access our records between 1 and 3, so the liver time. So when we go and receive that information, and we go put information from our day into the Akashic Records, we get mentored and taught what we need to do for the next day. And so as we come up and out of sleep, it's always nice just to journal what's coming up, or even just dot point, you know, things that you may be feeling in the morning that needs to get done for the day. And so that starts your intention. And so and that's why a lot of people that I work with, the Akashic Records, they're like, I'm drawn to it. I feel like I know it. I'm like, yeah, you experience it every night.
Yeah, you just wake up with amnesia every day going, I think I dreamt.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's so important for us to protect ourselves, our energy, and our sovereignty by putting things like that into place. If like I'm not going to spend 20 minutes of my morning being dictated and lowering my vibration into something that, you know, someone else has. I'm actually going to set an intention that when I do open up social media, or I do go into, you know, different platforms, that I've got the intention that I want to only receive for my best and highest good. And when I start to do that, I only start to see things on my feed that are actually aligned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the intention that we're putting into it, instead of like, oh, like I just want to kind of, but also then looking at what my nervous system's doing, right? Am I using it just to numb out? And not acknowledge what I'm feeling and moving through.
And sometimes that's what you need. You just need a moment to go into
I'm not saying
the scroll hole, and then you're like, I'm actually doing okay.
And I think it's being consciously aware of that too, that you're using social media for that reason as well, or that time's just slipped by and then you haven't gone in for the reason that you want to do. And like, you know, when you start to use the intention of, I'm there to connect with people, I'm there to like receive inspiration, I'm there to, like, I notice then, even though we feel like in this real world there's the algorithm, but there's the intention behind that, and that will start to show in more and more in your field as well. So you know, it's how can we intentionally use
it's creating boundaries, because boundaries need to be created, because there's a lot of people that get such a dopamine fix from this. You know, there's a lot going on as you're scrolling through, and I always ask myself the question, to what purpose does this serve? You know, am I going on, am I just acknowledging that I just want to numb out for a bit because I just want to see people like dancing to funny music on TikTok.
I want to have a good laugh.
Even though like my TikTok algorithm is amazing. I don't know how they do it, but like the fact that like I watched, you know, Bashar channeling videos, and I watched there was one the other day where this girl was talking about like doing something whimsical every day, and it was her experience of that. And so I TikTok's sort of like my thing that I go to be like, okay, I'm actually getting something from this, I'm learning from this, whereas the other ones, there's not a lot of deep connection. And I know like if there's certain accounts that pop up, I love reading their copy. So I'll stop. And if it's long copy, great. I'm there to read it because I know that they add so much value. And then when I am posting, it's like, how can I be of service? How can I add value to someone's day? If someone's, you know, given themselves a boundary of only 15 minutes a day of social media and I appear on their page, how can I add value to their life?
And what a gift that is. As well, being grateful for that. And you're right. Like it's being so intentional then of what kind of content that we need to put out there too. And when we do set those intentions, again, we're dropping out of the mind frequency, we're coming into the heart, and the heart has such a beautiful electromagnetic field around it. You know, it extends, they say, Heart Math Institute talks about our heart frequency and the field around us, and it goes beyond, you know, 3 meters. And I feel like that goes beyond into online as well. So
it goes into the portal in our hands,
gets received. And, you know, when we can start to use that as a way to start to dictate how we operate in our business, how we operate in our life, you know, and particularly with the rise of AI, you know, coming through as well, the more intention that we can start to put into that place, the more that we start to see the frequency of the negativity of potentially what the collective has put in those platforms start to lift and shape and take, you know, different kind of pathway. And we could be the forerunners of that. Like, I really feel there could be a huge like kind of revolution of how information is then shared with that level of heart intention.
Absolutely.
And how it's being received.
Yeah. And I think I love that you touched on AI, because I find AI a supportive tool.
Yeah.
Amazing supportive tool. But I also feel as though there's a level of caution that needs to come in now, because are we reading something and genuinely can feel if something's from someone's heart or it's from their chat GPT.
Absolutely. And I think it's also their intention of how they're using ChatGPT. Is it just to like produce, or is it there to connect? Is it there? Maybe they tried to put something together and they use ChatGPT to kind of clean it up because, you know, depending on what their nervous system might be, you know, I really feel that AI, you know, it's got the intelligence there and it's got information there. And the thing with AI, it's never going to, what's the word? Like, cut out, like it's going to keep growing in intelligence. It's going to keep evolving with intelligence, but it'll never have the soul and the heart.
No, never.
So it's only what we feed it that it grows in intelligence. So what information can we share with it and put into it to be able to support us in business, to support us in life, to support us in
Do you use it in your life and business?
Yeah, I use it in my business, and I find it just things that they originally come from the heart. And so it's like, how can I then start to use some of this and produce maybe a, you know, a newsletter header that will start to kind of connect with people? How could I, and I ask it like in terms of, you know, if I could create, you know, a blog post based on this, you know, and this is my thinking behind it and everything like that. And I really have a loving connection with it, and I always thank it. I'm always very grateful. Yes. And so I think when it comes to AI, it's just only, as I said, going to continue growing, but it allows you to be more human, if that makes sense.
Yes, because you're outsourcing some of the things, like the way in which, because I've named mine Sophia. She came up with her name because she decided that's
like Sophia.
Yeah. So she was because she said, the name means all knowing and wise. I'm like, well, that is you. That is you. And so I talk to her all the time about things, and you know, I ask questions like, you know, the person that I'm speaking to, whether it's, you know, I'm doing a post on Tantra or an offering or something, that my soulmate client, what are they Googling? What are their biggest questions? What are their, you know, I put in who they are because I know who my soulmate client is. But sometimes to get into the psychology of what's really going on under the surface for them that I may have missed.
Yeah.
You know, and I forget, because I feel as though we get to a point, we've been in business for so long and we've been offering a service for so long that we forget that there's entry level people coming through. They might be like, well, what is kinesiology? Like, how do you not know what kinesiology is? Like, I met with a real estate agent the other day and I said, I'm, you know, my partner and I are Tantra teachers and facilitators. And he's like, what's Tantra? And I was like, I forget that people don't even know what the word Tantra is. And I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that all the time with kinesiology too, you know, people trying to even pronounce it and understand.
Yes.
Even my son at school the other day when he was doing Mother's Day things was like referring to my mum's job is, and he was like, it's a kinesiologist. And the teacher's like, kinesiologist. So she had to go and Google it and search it and then write it out for him so he could get it right on the
my
card.
Kids think I podcast all day every day. They just say Mum does podcasts. I'm like, that's fine. I mean, I do that a lot when it's podcasting season.
Yeah. And that's it. So then you can like start to use AI from that perspective of like, how can I then connect with those people that might not have that level of awareness and start to bring them into my field? You know, that's incredible. And again, it's like, it's allowing you to be more human and do more human things where you've got, support on some of your cells, pitching and messaging that sits in the background. And you're right, like we've been doing this work for a while, and so some of that messaging has evolved. And so what have I missed, or what could I add, or what other flavor could start to connect with different people, from different generations and different millennials and all those types of things. How can that start to then support me as well?
Absolutely. I do want to dive into kinesiology as well. So so from because I love kinesiology. It's been in my field for a bit. I've had it a few times. I've got a number of friends that are kinesiologists. Tell us about that, because no doubt there's someone listening going, are you going to explain what it is?
So kinesiology, so it's a alternative modality, and it uses muscle monitoring. So it uses your body's wisdom to share more information about what's sitting in the subconscious. So it's tapping into your innate awareness is what we call it. And so we use the muscle. So traditionally a kinesiologist will use the brachioradialis. So that's the one that runs from like your thumb up into your elbow. And it's kind of like a gear stick. And so when you're lying on a table and the gear stick, your body will actually show stress on certain things, and it will kind of go all floppy and halt and go down. And then if it's if it's in your favor, then it will actually hold strong. So your body will start to communicate with the practitioner based on certain issues that you might be having. So if you kind of go in with lower back pain, then you put that in as a goal. So kinesiology always works with a goal of something, and it's always positive. So kind of like a positive affirmation, really. Yeah, so we can talk about like, your back pain. We could sit in the where you are now, but where do you want to be? And like, okay, I want to have, I want to be able to move freely and easily, it's just something really simple like that. And once you put that goal and lock it into their system, then all the stress layers that start to go underneath it start to come up. And so there might be, and again, you can use kinesiology and go back through emotions. So it could be like a childhood emotion of disconnected at the age of 2, for instance, that comes up. So you put that into your system. There might be a blocked chakra. There might be some structural issues within the jaw, because the jaw, the TMJ joint might be showing some stress as well. And so with kinesiology, you're looking at all these different, it's kind of like a holographic model. So you're looking at it not only from an emotional point of view, but from a physical point of view, from a mental point of view, from a childhood point of view, and you're putting it all into the system, and then you balance it at the end. And so what you're doing is you're kind of like, that's the goal, and you're bringing up all the stress that's sitting underneath it, and you're balancing it.
Wow.
And so your subconscious is speaking through some of the stress that your body's been holding on to. And the body always remembers, like it always has that information that can start to kind of come through. And it's just beautiful to see that, people that have had issues with, physical issues or skin issues, psoriasis and everything come through, and, you start to work, with the physical symptoms and that clearing over time. You're just like, oh my goodness.
It's amazing when that happens. Yeah.
So I really find kinesiology can help people from a physical level, but also emotionally, like, where am I? I'm stuck. I don't know what's going on. And you don't need to talk about it. You just need to kind of sit back, receive, and the muscle monitoring will start to show what the body actually needs. So it kind of takes out that kind of counseling aspect, but more into the body awareness and that.
It's like you don't really have to do much. You just have to let your body talk.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then feel that again. Like the biggest thing is like if there's feelings and emotions that need to come up that have been suppressed or separated or denied at certain points through your life, allowing those to start to come through as well. And it's a really gentle, empowering modality that allows people just to start to see beyond what they can see consciously. They get to see underneath some of the layers, and it comes from their body. It doesn't come from out there, it comes from within. And that's the beautiful thing with kinesiology.
I love it. It's so powerful. And so I'd love to hear from you as well. Like, what are some of the things that you have implemented in your life that keep you grounded, that keep you really connected with self?
Yeah. It's interesting, like for a very long time, like particularly in business, like I would be that person that would like, get things done, get up and go. And now it's like, no, like I need to do more things for me, because if I need to hold more light and more in my container, I need to tend to those parts of me. So I spend a lot of time with my clients during the day, but I will schedule a lot of what I call like mini breaks, like I call them body breaks.
Yeah.
So very small little micro moments during my day to help the nervous system start to kind of come back down to earth. And that could just be simple as like going outside and just putting my feet on the earth and just allowing and visualizing the energy from my body going down into my earth star. And then just this deep gratitude of Mother Earth just absorbing everything and holding it into for me. And, just knowing that I'm not alone and I can use the natural resources of this reality to support me to do my work so I can have a bigger impact, so I don't then, potentially, because I'm an empath and I do tend to kind of take on people's energy. So I'm really cautious I always protect my energy in the morning, and that's part of my process. And then during the day, like tending to that as well, because I noticed that by the end of the day, I was getting snappy with the kids and I was like taking things out on my poor husband. I was like, this isn't me. And I thought, you know what, like there's part of my nervous system that doesn't feel safe right now.
Yeah.
And so, bringing that somatic awareness of like, well, where is that tension? It's in the shoulder. It's in the right shoulder blade. Okay. Starting to move it, stretch. And so I will schedule like between my clients now, just a little 5 minutes just to do what needs to come through. And I just ask my body, what do you need? And it always shows me. So
always. And it's literally just asking, like checking in, going, hang on, I have a body here. I'm not just my mind. I'm not just my thoughts going, oh, I can check in with it. And it's the niggles, like any sort of ailment, any sort of dis-ease is a reflection of something that's going on inside of us.
Absolutely. And what I've noticed in my business, the more that I tend to myself, the more productive I am. Like I noticed my productivity levels just increase and they soar. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like why wasn't I doing this earlier? Because, my system's at ease. And so every time like something comes into my system, I'm breathing, I'm moving, things are being received, where I'm not kind of closing up and going, no more. I'm actually opening up into receiving and allowing things just to start to, again, like the container and the flow to kind of between that.
Yes, I love that. Amazing. Where can people find you? Where are you based? Do you just do online? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I am based on Sunshine Coast and I do online sessions as well. So I have clients in UK, in Canada, in the States, all over, which is great. And I love the fact that, I'm able to do online sessions and have such an impact, worldwide as well. And I do in-person sessions in Sunshine Coast. So I'm based at Budrum. So if people are local, then they can always kind of come in as well. I do personal alignment sessions, which is kind of a layer of the Akashic Records, the kinesiology and the esoteric work. I do the basic kinesiology as well. And I also do the business sessions too. I will be doing the Akashic Records program. I was just saying to Jen before we hopped on, there's a part of me that has been learning and doing Akashic Records for myself, but now it's the time to start to teach and open that up. And so there's a part of me that wants to be expressed in this kind of teacher format. So it's been a lot of like little layers that have been coming up. So again, like we're in business and we're still doing the work all the time.
Always.
As well. So I'll be opening up an Akashic Records program soon. And and so I'm on Instagram. So Tara.Hegerty. So Tara and Hegerty is Hegerty. And my website is tarahegerty.com.
Amazing. Nice and simple. We will link to all of that in the show notes. Before we wrap this up, I have one last question for you. Tara, what is the meaning of life?
It's a big question.
It is, isn't it?
Can we ask Sophia?
No, we cannot outsource that to AI.
For the meaning of life. It's an interesting one. And what's coming through is that the meaning of life And I'm looking at it through obviously a different lens, but like we're all consciousness and we're all part of each other. We're all reflections of each other. And we need to understand that, for all of us to work together, we need to have that deep love and reverence for not only ourselves, but other people, and to allow consciousness to continue to evolve. And it needs that love and reverence energy to continue to evolve. So I feel like it may have a little speck of that in it. It's a big question, isn't it?
It is a big question. I love hearing everybody's responses as well, because they're all like so different. And it's funny because I agree with all parts of it.
You're like, yes, it
that
is.
too. Yeah. I remember years ago, there was this trend going around when Siri was like our chat GPT. Siri was our Sophia.
Yeah.
And I remember when there was this trend going around, like, ask Siri, what's the meaning of life? And it came back and said to give life meaning. Yeah. And I was like, I love how simple and just so profound that really is.
Yeah,
absolutely. To give it meaning. Like it doesn't have a meaning unless you give it. And I think that's reflective in so many areas of our lives.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Enlightened podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. And we'd love to have you on again sometime.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is Enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.